It is Friday. There we go. Friday, and it's March 19th, 2021. I don't know, maybe I'll move it down a little bit. It's hard to tell when you actually go live on YouTube because the screen that they show you before you go live is a little bit distorted. So anyway, try and get the pretty clouds in the background over the lake behind me. It's a beautiful day. Temperatures today, I think the high is supposed to be about 59 with a light breeze and mostly sunny. So happy Friday. I am in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Beautiful, no humidity, and looking forward to a great weekend of some basketball actually tonight as my Purdue Boilermakers. In fact, I don't know if I can show you. I can, I think. Right there, P for Purdue. They're playing tonight at 7:25 p.m. Eastern against North Texas on TNT. And I get very excited when March Madness. Last year, March Madness was shut down, sadly, because of COVID. This year, we are moving forward. So, and all the games are being played in the state of Indiana, where I grew up. So, excited to see some of the games tonight. And then doing ministry tomorrow night in Chattanooga, Tennessee. First time I've ever done ministry there at the Fairfield Inn off of I-24 near Lookout Mountain, like behind the hotel. You can see Lookout Mountain. I've been there once when I was a kid, a teenager, when my parents rented an RV and drove us as a family down to Florida. First time in my life I'd ever been there. And I'll never forget, because my brother Keith got to drive part of the trip. My dad left like Indianapolis where we rented the RV, and then he drove all the way down to, I think maybe, I don't know, Chattanooga, something like that. But we came through Atlanta, and I'll never forget, I stayed awake with my brother Keith. I think it was around, I don't know, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was the first time in my life I had ever seen, I believe it was 6 lanes of highway that went through downtown Atlanta. And I was amazed because I'd never seen more than 3 that went around in Indianapolis. And I think I was around 18 at the time. I think I was a high school student. My brother Dwayne was at Purdue, and Keith had graduated. So, and I'll never forget, on that trip, Keith had lost his glasses in the Atlantic Ocean. And the famous words from him were, "Stop, everyone. Don't take a step. I lost my glasses. I don't want you to step on them. Let's look for them." And I'm like, really? Look for them in the Atlantic Ocean as waves are coming in? I'm pretty sure, Keith, you're not going to find your glasses, which he didn't. And then we ended up going to SeaWorld in Orlando, and he had to stay behind because he couldn't see. So he would read the newspaper like this. And he got like ink print on his nose because he had to put the newsprint so close to his face. So rest his soul. Keith has gone on to heaven. He left the earth back on Memorial Day weekend last year. And ironically, interestingly with Keith, it was about a year prior that he actually went to heaven. He was watching, I don't know, a basketball game, I think it was, and the Lord took him up to heaven. And so he got to talk to God and talk to Jesus. And I asked him if he talked about me, and they said no. I'm like, really? I'm like, why didn't you say, hey, what do you think of Nelson? But the Lord told him that it wasn't his time yet, that he had more for him to do. So they sent him back. But he was up there for, I don't know, a few minutes at least. And he said it was just amazing, just beautiful up there. Hard to describe, he said. But he said Jesus was sitting to his right, and God was up there on the throne. So pretty cool. And now he's up there permanently. So anyways, enjoying gonna be enjoying the tomorrow in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and then the following weekend I'll be in Savannah, Georgia, and have not done ministry there either. So the Lord's having me go to some places I have not been to before, and I'm going to other places that I have been to before, and added another venue actually today, which I'll talk about here on my breakthrough tour. So as we continue to build out, and again I'll say this, is I'm continuing to do private sessions, personal sessions for people seeing great miracles. It's exciting to me because I never wanted to talk to demons, obviously. I mean, who wants to do that? I mean, you don't grow up and say, I want to talk to demons. I never, I had no inklings of doing ministry whatsoever. But then when I ended up having, getting married and seeing people, my loved ones, that were being affected by these demonic spirits as well as I was too. And it was part of my training ground. And so when I went through some of the things that were hard to go through, I could see how people would change and treat other people badly, and how it was largely because of the voices they were hearing in their head, largely of which were demonic spirits, which gave them thoughts, which caused them to be selfish and mean, and from wounds that they had. This is weird. I think there's a woodpecker over here. Yeah, it's like a really quiet woodpecker. It's on the other side of this tree, about 20 feet from me. I think it's a woodpecker, maybe it's a squirrel. It's on the other side, I can't see it, but it's making noise. Anyways, so unbeknownst to me, I had no idea that the Lord was going to call me into doing ministry, and now I see just tons of lives around the world that are getting set free and delivered. So anyway, my mentor, Scott Bitcon, had taught me how to interrogate these demons before the courts of heaven so they can't lie. And I'm seeing amazing stuff that I'm learning from what the demonic spirits are telling me when I interrogate them through the person. Sometimes the person will manifest where they'll change voices, and that's kind of cool, and they'll maybe say a cuss word here or there when they're being sent to the pit. But oftentimes the person just hears in their thoughts what that demonic spirit is saying when I command it to tell the truth. Like, how did you gain access to the person? What happened? Oh, they were molested when they were 4. Oh, okay, well that makes sense. So do you have any legal rights? Yes, there's still pride in them. Oh, okay. Or they're listening to, making idols out of country music songs or music people, or they have desires for the world, so they're double-minded. So it's amazing when you're actually interrogating these demonic spirits, when they tell you the truth. Because most times people are like, well, you don't want to talk to demons because they're going to lie to you. I'm like, well, not when you take them before the courts of heaven, so they can't lie. All you have to do is say, I'm taking you before the courts of heaven. You can't lie. That's all you do. And then you command it. So tell me, what's your name? And they'll tell you the names. Who's the number 1, number 2 demonic spirits that are tormenting this lovely person or this man? And they'll tell the person. They're like, my name is Jezebel. My name is Leviathan. My name is Legion. My name is Bathsheba. My name is whatever, Esmeralda. I mean, I hear names I don't even know. And what's cool is when you get a name of something that you don't know, you say, okay, gee, your name is whatever, Belshazzar or something weird. You're like, okay, what's your functionality? And then it will tell you. Like this one lady, it was Esmeralda. I'm like, Esmeralda? I'm like, what's your functionality? And it was to keep her from her God-given purpose. Keep her from her God-given purpose. And I was like, do you have any legal rights? And I'm like, yeah. The legal rights were she would make idols of other country music people. How many of us listen to songs that aren't Christian? And you may listen too much to those songs, and they may end up getting into your subconscious and then causing you to do things, to think about sexual liaisons with people, perverted things, drinking, all kinds of things that I had no clue of. I'm like, this is phenomenal. And we can do this, when we know our authority in Christ, we don't get into fear, So I'm really enjoying my life right now. It is fun to see people that will get freed, and we can do this largely, like in an hour session, we can knock out a percentage of people of demonic spirits. Could be 75%. So it's phenomenal. And of course, I want to teach other people how to do this. We've got 150 some people. We're adding more people every week now, in 9 countries that are certified. And I'm going to be doing actually a training this coming Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern for those that are certified. So you can't join this if you're not gone through the certification process, which you can find that on the website, restoredtofreedom.com. Just go out there and go to RTF certification, and then there's 4 videos you have to watch. There's 3 of my books you have to read, and then we bring you into the the family of RTF deliverance ministers around the world. And then we do ongoing trainings. Like this Sunday, I'm going to be training and talking about, when you interrogate these demonic spirits, don't be afraid. What are they going to do to you? They're going to speak now. They could have a voice that's scary. They could say a cuss word. I heard that yesterday. And it's like, no biggie. And when you get to the point when you know that Jesus did the same thing, Jesus didn't get afraid. When you know who you are in Christ, it's not a big deal. It's trying to help the person find out what legal rights exist to have them get tormented. And a lot of it's unforgiveness. A lot of it's bitterness. A lot of it could have been, generational curses that came down the bloodline, because what affected great-grandpa, maybe sexually, perversely, affected grandpa, affected dad, affected you, affected your children. So that's what normally happens. People struggle with whatever alcohol or sexual perversity comes down the bloodline. So anyway, I'm learning a lot as we're going through, and we're seeing great success. So anyway, so our breakthrough tour, where I'm going to be traveling this Saturday, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Fairfield Inn, up I-24, Lookout Mountain. First time I've ever done ministry at a Fairfield Inn. Looking forward to this. Excited about this. I'm assuming they only have one place to do it in their, whatever they call it, banquet center or something. March 27th, going to be at the Marriott Savannah Riverfront in Savannah, Georgia. Never been to Savannah before to do ministry. I've been there a couple times before. But that's a beautiful property on the riverfront. It's a Marriott. It's gorgeous. Again, next Saturday, 7 p.m., both times at 7 p.m. April 4th in Luray, Virginia, which is in Western Virginia. Cooter's Place, which is the Cooter. Hello to Mindy. Hello to Tina. Hello to others that are watching. I'm very happy today. If you haven't noticed, just very, 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 have a lot of joy, a lot of just feeling great, and I feel blessed at what the Lord is doing, excited about what God's doing. Seeing these testimonies is awesome, is amazing. So for those of you that watched the Dukes of Hazzard, remember that? I think that came on Friday nights. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's came on Friday nights. I never, unfortunately, was allowed to watch it because my mom thought Daisy Duke was dressed too sexy, so couldn't watch it. But I remember seeing advertisements and stuff that they'd had for it. And there's a guy named Cooter that was a mechanic in the show. And there's Bo and Luke and Daisy Duke, and then Uncle Jesse. I remember, yeah, he was the guy that was in Grizzly Adams. I remember watching Grizzly Adams about this guy and the bear living out in a place like this, out where there's trees in the mountains. And so anyway, Cooter, the last time I was there, about 1.5 years, I got to meet him. Very nice man. Got to meet his wife. They have a beautiful place there, a garage where they have the cars and stuff where you can see them, the General Lee, and they have a lunch place there. They sing there. They have on Saturday afternoons, and Cooter actually came out and sang. So I'm looking forward to that. April 4th, it'll be Easter Sunday morning, that I'll be doing my normal breakthrough event, inner healing, deliverance, soul wound healing. Looking forward to that. And then maybe coming to Indiana. Boss Hogg, yes, I remember Boss Hogg, and that silly deputy of his or whatever. What was his name? Can't remember. But he was very goofy. They were all clumsy and stuff. I'm sure that signifies all police forces everywhere. No, not. Hashtag not. But anyways, I may be coming back in April to Indiana, maybe going back down to Florida, to Holiday, Florida. That's to be determined. May 22nd, 23rd will be in Hot Springs, Arkansas, Highland Street Revival Church. I was there right after Thanksgiving last year. May 29th and 30th in Merkel, Texas, which is west of Roscoe. That's it. Yes, Roscoe. Was it Roscoe P. Coltrane? Was that his name? I think. Isn't it funny? Things all come back to the 80s. Of course, it's because that's where I grew up. Boy, it's getting really warm right now. The sun is out. Blinded by the light. don't want to continue on singing 80s songs. I'll get in trouble if I do. So, but there's so many things that we can learn sometimes from some of those songs. All right, anyway, Merkel, Texas, May 29th and 30th. It's before Memorial Day weekend. That's west of Texas. I've been there several times before. I think 4 times before. Fountain Gate Merkel Church. And then June 5th and 6th, Needles, California, Needles Assembly of God, which that might be changing to Anaheim, Orange County, California. So I'll let you know on that. June 12th and 13th, coming to Bernie, California, Northern California, east of Redding. June 25th through the 27th, Seattle, Washington, at the Point Church, which is in Arlington. And then this just got added about an hour ago. And it is in Billings, Montana. It's beautiful in Montana. You used to be able to drive as fast as you wanted. You could go like 180 miles an hour in Montana because it's the big sky country. Everything there in the sky is huge because you can see for miles and miles. But now they've got it limited to, I think, 80 miles an hour. So, in fact, that's the last place I got my speeding ticket, just to be transparent, is because it went from 80 miles an hour down to like, I don't know, 40 in a bridge that they were working on. And when you're driving 80, you get there pretty darn quickly. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, I have to slow down, huh? And there's a policeman there, but the policeman was really nice. He was from like Fort Wayne, Indiana. And he moved all the way out to Wyoming. He got married to a girl that he met somewhere, and he was from Fort Wayne. So I told him what I did. I said, well, hey, I'm from Fort Wayne. And he's like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah. Columbia City? He's like, oh, yeah, I know Columbia City. So anyways, he lowered my speed that I was at. But that's the last time I had a ticket, you know, and so it's nice. It's been 2 years now, not having to take any special online courses to try to, I don't know, lower things. So anyways, it is fun to be delivered. You know, I'm going to be talking today about Jezebel, Leviathan, and Ahab. That's really how this whole ministry was started. Was the Lord took me through some things. I got to experience them up close and personal. Not fun whenever you're Jezebeled, where you're being controlled and manipulated and yelled at and knives thrown at you, glasses thrown at you. It was a pretty extreme experience, but it taught me some things. And it taught me, number one, to have compassion for people who are abusive, because the only reason why they're abusive is because they were abused. Hurting people hurt people. When you can see these people through Christ's eyes, then you can truly forgive. Doesn't mean that you may want to stay married to them. Doesn't mean that you may want to hang out with them every weekend. You know, if they are being infected by these demonic spirits that are speaking to their thoughts, they're going to manifest on you. They're going to say things to be mean to you, to hurt you, to control you, to be selfish, to ruin your day. So why would you hang around them every day? Now, I know in some cases you have to work with people like that every day. You know, and I remember once I was working for one that was Jezebel, I was married to one, and I was even going to a church with a pastor that had it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So some of you that get the old trifecta, where you're getting abused by your spouse, and could be your parent, could be your employer, that's not a fun task to go through. You're constantly being the whipping boy or the whipping girl. You're constantly being the scapegoat for everything. And they blame you and blame you and blame you. And then you're like, oh, it exhausts you. It really does. So when you get freed from all that, oh my gosh, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like heaviness lifts off you. You feel so much more joy, so much more peace. You can never have peace around people that struggle with that spirit of Jezebel. All you can have is torment. Why? Because they're being tormented. And I'll say this, for those of you that are working around people that have Jezebel, you know, I had several bosses, a couple of bosses, that were infected by that. And I didn't even know it. I just knew that they were very controlling. They were micromanagers. They talked down to me. They were very condemning. Some of them would lie, come up with big things of promises that would never come to pass. And it would keep you in the game. It would keep you staying there. But it was interesting. I worked for Banker Systems for much of my career. It was the largest compliance company in the United States. and they were out of St. Cloud, Minnesota. And I had a boss that used to manage other sales reps, and the sales reps that he managed, it was interesting. We all had these breakout sessions, and I'd have my manager, and he was great, and we all, got along well. But that manager, who seemed to be nice, he smiled and stuff, and I said hi. But all the reps that reported to him hated him. And I'm like, what? Why do you hate this guy? He seems so nice. And they're like, yeah, right, until you report to him. Well, then one day, he started managing my alliance division. And he would have these private conversations with me that were very condemning. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why are you talking to me disrespectfully and talking down? And so he managed me, and he managed 2 other guys. And when he got removed from that position, changed to something else, after I think maybe 3 months, I was like, wow, glad I don't have to report to him anymore. And that guy was not nice. Well, then he came back around, he got recycled, and he started managing me and I think 5 people this time. And I had enough after about, I don't know, a couple months. I'm like, I'm not gonna tolerate this. So I talked to a couple of my colleagues and said, listen, I think I'm gonna have to report him to HR. And they're like, oh, I don't know if you should do that. I'm like, well, how do you feel on Sunday nights before you have to come to work? And one guy said, I feel sick to my stomach every single Sunday night because I know what's coming is we're going to be talked down to, and I'm going to have private conversations with him, and it's not going to be fun on Mondays. And I'm like, yep, me too. So I got the gumption up. I'm like, I'm not going to tolerate this, and I'm going to protect my colleagues. So guess what I did? I contacted HR. First time in my life. And I told them, I said, this is how he treats all of us. And they probably had heard of it before, but they ended up interrogating or having interviews with the other colleagues I had, and they all said the same thing. Yes, the guy is a nut job. He's controlling us all get out. And so guess what? They made him go through sensitivity training. And so then when he started to talk to us, he was all super nice. It was like, hi. But we all knew, okay, that's fake. That is not who he really is. Really deep down inside, he wants to kill us all. He's very angry. And he would probably be especially angry at me. Well, guess what? I ended up leaving the company, getting another job with this guy that was very favorable and nice to me when he used to work there at Banker Systems. He worked for a different company called Digital Insight, which was the largest internet banking company in the United States, where you pay bills on your phone, you transfer money. And they had an office actually in Norcross, Georgia, and they had a headquarters out in Calabasas, California. They were later acquired by Intuit, remember, makers of TurboTax and Quicken. And so anyway, we became Intuit Financial Services. And it was great because I was able to leave the company and go work for him, and he was great. He was awesome. He and I got along very well. Well, then the other ones that were left behind were like, oh my gosh, Nelson, what did you do? Now he's being nice to us, but we know he hates us. And I'm like, well, I said, it's better than the alternative. But again, I didn't know anything about spirits of Jezebel and Leviathan and how it could cause a person to control and manipulate. So it's funny. I mean, when you get delivered and stuff, you have fun. You can laugh at things. You could laugh at yourself. But boy, you don't get delivered from this stuff. You can't. You are super serious about everything. Oh my gosh, I'm going to control everybody, and all my problems are yours. They never look at themselves in the mirror. And so they're miserable to be with. They want to really kill you. If the demons could do it, and oftentimes they do it over time. Because legally they can't really get a gun out and shoot you, although they may want to. But it's the demons in them that wants to do that. So what do? They verbally, emotionally abuse you. And they could do it very nicely. They could just be super nice, but say no to every one of your requests. Well, gee, honey, I would like to go eat at Subway tonight. No. Okay, gee, I would like to go eat at Panera Bread. No. We're going to eat where I want to eat at. We're going to shop at where I want to shop at. We're going to do everything that I want, and if we don't do what I want, then I'm going to throw a fit and make your life miserable. I'm going to control you. I'm going to limit you sexually. I'm going to do everything in my life to make your life miserable unless you cater to me. And so they don't have to be horrible, horrible, but they sure know how to ruin fun, like going on vacation, like birthdays and anniversaries. So what we're going to talk about today, I try and talk about it at least a couple times a month because everybody in the world is dealing with this. And so when we have new people that are watching YouTube every day and or following me on Facebook, they need to know about this because this can help them get freed, and it can help their spouse get free, and it can save a marriage and save a family from striving. But it's not easy, because when these demonic spirits have legal rights to torment a person, they will deny that they have anything wrong with them. They'll blame everything on you, and then they live in a different reality. They truly do. It's like they live in bizarro world that's all about them instead of the truth. So, all right, let me talk about Jezebel. These are the characteristics of the spirit of Jezebel, and it's real. You know, and how do you get this, first of all? How do you get the spirit of Jezebel? Does it jump on you from a tree out in the woods? Does Leviathan, when you're swimming out in the lake, jump on your back because it's a water spirit? You know, Job 41 talks about Leviathan, and there's like, I believe it's 13 different verses in the Bible that talk about Leviathan. But Job 41, verse 34, says it's king over all the children of pride. And it describes in Job 41 like an alligator. It's got rows of scales that are its pride. It's got a lot of teeth. It twists things, just like an alligator. It grabs its prey and it twists and twists and twists. So it will twist the truth. It will twist words that are spoken. It will twist conversations like several times. They'll never stay on topic. They'll try and twist the conversation topic so they don't have to deal with the truth that you're trying to get through to them. So, and then Jezebel's in 1 Kings and 2 Kings. Jezebel was married to Ahab. And we're going to talk about Ahab as well. Ahab did more evil in the sight of the Lord than all the other kings prior to him because he tolerated Jezebel, and Jezebel would stir him up, it says. So Jezebel would really take over the control of being the king. She would get her way. And so many people that are in marriages today are Jezebel and Ahab. I'd say 85% to some degree, where you have one person. I'm going to describe Jezebel. Jezebel, you get that basically through wounds. You get hurt from fathers and mothers. Sexually, you get molested or you get touched. Could be from a cousin, could be from your neighbor, could be from your brother or sister, could be from your dad, your stepfather, stepmother. So anytime you get touched or molested or shown pornography, things like that, you will normally get that spirit of Jezebel. It just comes on you, has legal rights at that point. And it will cause you to be drawn to things sexually in a perverse way versus a pure way. And it will also cause you to be, and I'm going to describe the characteristics here, but how you get it is through getting hurt, getting wounded. And some of you have been hurt and wounded a lot. You know, I do sessions with people. They describe and go through the wounds that were most significant so we can get them healed by Jesus, so we can take away the legal rights of the demons with people that have unforgiveness and anger and bitterness, and then we can take authority, command the demons to go. And then they don't have no more legal rights. And you don't hear those voices up here, but that's what happens. People that have spirit of Jezebel is they're hearing. The National Science Foundation, 2005, did a study that found the average person could have up to 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day, of which 80% of their thoughts are negative and 95% are repetitive. Well, that's demonic. They're hearing these demonic voices all the day long, and it's causing them to be selfish and controlling and manipulative. So I'm going to read off the characteristics so you know if we're describing you or your loved one. Again, most people have all three of these to some degree, but they'll default one way or the other more often. So more frequently they'll be under the influence of Jezebel, or they'll be under the influence of Ahab. Gosh, I'm getting hot. Is it okay if I take my shirt off? Actually, my sweatshirt. I don't think I've ever done that before. Much better. And guess what? Since my Pretty Boilermakers are playing tonight at 7:30, I have on another Purdue shirt. See? Purdue, right there it says. I got these as gifts. Yay! Thank you to that person that gave me these. I appreciate you greatly. So, all right, next. These are the characteristics of people that struggle with the spirit of Jezebel. Are you ready? Can you receive the truth? All those that are watching that are newbies. Okay, here's what will happen. Jezebel will start to speak to you. Boil her up. There you go, Tina. Yay. Tina's from Indiana. She grew up right down the road, and her best friend in high school lived across the road from me. How cool, how crazy is that? We never knew each other existed until 2017 on Facebook. And the Lord put us together, and we're now partners in, I would say partners in crime, but it's partners in deliverance of people around the world before Christ comes back. So she's been working for me 2.5 years, and it's been great. It's been awesome. So the Hoosier connection, which I call it the Boilermaker connection. All right, so here's are the characteristics of people that struggle more with the spirit of Jezebel. And you'll know it as soon as I describe it. If it's the first time you've ever heard this, you'll be like, oh my gosh, that sounds like my mom. That sounds like my dad. So again, you're gonna have a mom and dad. There's this little bitty spider on top of my phone. Okay, it's gone. But this will describe most people in relationships. So get ready. If you've never heard this before, it'll blow your mind. So Jezebel spirit will cause people to do this. They will be controlling. They will want their way all the time. They will demand it oftentimes. Gotta have my way. The voices in their head, the demonic spirits, are telling them that their decisions are the best. They can't trust anybody else. Why? Because they were hurt when they grew up. They couldn't trust whoever it was that hurt them, like their dad or their mom, stepfather, stepmother, neighbor, whoever. And the demons tell them, you know what, you can't trust anybody to make a decision. You better make sure you call all the shots. Because if you trust your spouse or anyone other than yourself, you're going to get hurt again. You're going to end up making a bad decision. Something bad's going to happen. So you better make sure that you make all the decisions. So it causes you to control other people, to make them do what you want. It causes you to manipulate those people too, sometimes subtly, so they can't figure out that you are controlling them, and some of them more overtly. You know, they'll try to guilt you to do what they want. Like, for example, maybe they have children, and maybe they want to go out to party. So they tell you, you know what, I need somebody to watch my children. And they may not say that they have to party. They may say they have to do some, whatever, work on a Friday night. But they'll say, I need somebody to watch my children. And if you don't watch them, I'm going to have my next door neighbor watch them. And you know what, if they get molested, it's going to be on you. It's going to be your problem because you're the one that refused to watch my children. So they'll put like little things like that on you. And you'll be like, oh, gee, I guess maybe I'll watch your children then for you. Okay, that's better. You know, if you say no, well, then I'm going to let my next door neighbor watch them. And if they get molested, it's going to be on you. It's going to be all your responsibility. So they'll say things like that. People that have Jezebel also are anxious and fearful, but they'll oftentimes act like they're completely in control of everything. Oh no, I know everything about everything. You know, they'll be so overconfident in their abilities and confidence levels. So it exhausts you when you have this spirit. It causes you to be very jealous, very jelly. So you could have, if you're married to somebody, that other somebody could have conversations with somebody else. Maybe it's at work, maybe it's at church. But the demons in the person that has Jezebel are telling them, you know what? They're planning a secret rendezvous and you can't trust them. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So they want to micromanage everything. They want to look at every single text and every single message and all this because the enemy is messing with them, causing them to be very jealous. You know, I know personally where I've had that happen a couple of times. It's not fun. It's like, really? It's like, hello, you can look at anything and everything that I message anyone. And hello, I've got a ministry. So therefore, yes, there are going to be females that are going to reach out for help, and I'm going to try to help them and assist them. But they get very jealous. And they can go crazy on you. And it feels real to them. They feel like they're justified and they're right when they're wrong. And they could explain it to other people and lie. So you got to be, I'll say this. So I remember one that told me, you know, you shouldn't be giving words to women, you know, when I was at church. And I'm like, what? It was like at the front of the church when people were worshiping. And 75% of the time, 75% of the people would be women that worship there. So if I'm up there and the Lord gives me a word for somebody, I'm going to give the word. It's not like I'm hitting on them. And so it's crazy, crazy. how jealous, that those spirits will be. They'll be angry when you're happy. They don't want anybody to be happy. Man, if you're happy, oh, it makes them so mad. They got to make your life miserable because their life's miserable. So why would the demons want you to be happy? They'll be demanding, they'll be defiant, they'll be selfish, they'll be sexually impure, they'll be motivated by sex all the time. They push their victims to do stuff that's not normal, and they'll control through sex. They'll either want sex, I don't know, lots of times every week, or they'll say, nope, I'm going to cut you off. Nope, I'm not going to give you sex because you didn't do what I wanted, so therefore. And you're like, what? Huh? I don't think that's in the Bible, what you're doing. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. And they'll twist and manipulate scriptures accordingly. They're masters at manipulating the scriptures. You know what? You need to cover me. You need to cover me. You need to protect me. You shouldn't say anything about all the things that I'm doing to you, is what that really means. It means that, okay, don't you dare tell all the evil, mean things that I'm doing to you. And meanwhile, I'm going to lie about you to other people so that they will believe me as being the good guy, a good cop, and you're the bad one. And it's like, wait a minute, you're lying. So they're masters at lying, telling half-truths, and they will convince themselves that they're telling the truth. So they believe their false narratives. So they live in a different reality than what the rest of us do. Those of us that don't struggle with the spirit of Jezebel as much as they do are like, wait a minute, shouldn't you be telling the truth about what you do? Oh no, they'll justify. I don't do anything wrong. It's all you. I am good. I am perfect. So they have a desire for power and leadership, which makes them have a desire to want to get into the church. And it puffs them up with pride, which is the spirit of Leviathan. But it causes them to want to start being an intercessor. Oh my goodness, I'm a prophet, I'm a prophet, I'm a prophet. They love the titles. I'm a pastor, that I paid $25 online for my pastor's license. Or I am a prophet because I say that I am. They're a self-appointed prophet. Or I'm an apostle. Like whose apostleship did you go through? It was God. Okay. I'm a bishop. And they're like, what? Wait a minute. Okay. Who did you go under? Where did you graduate from? I went to bishop school, and it's God's bishop school. So then they make up things. So anyway, they love their titles. They love to get into leadership positions. They love to get in good with the leaders, especially of movements where the Holy Spirit is working. So if you're seeing a lot of people get delivered from a specific ministry, the Jezebels and the witches, yes, there are witches that are in the church, like 1.4 million witches go to church and try to get in good with people, cast spells on them, try and be your best buddy, and yet control your life to the nth degree until you have no other friends because they're jealous, and they want to use you to make themselves look good. So they'll oftentimes control and manipulate, and it's hard for a leader, a pastor, a leader of a ministry to call a person out. But eventually, it typically does come to the surface. And if the person is not an Ahab leader, they will do something about it. They will say, listen, I am seeing some things. The Lord oftentimes shows people dreams or truth of how a person's behaving, because you can't look at their works. You can't look at that because they're going to have a lot of good works that look good. Maybe even things that they say sound good. But it's really, really hard to discern some of these people that struggle with the Jezebel spirit. But they'll be very much desiring to become your best buddy if you are in charge of a ministry. I have to watch that myself. I have to be careful who I put in positions of leadership. I have to make sure they have a good heart, they have a godly heart, they have a humble heart, they have God's heart, and they have fruit of the Spirit, much more than fruit of the flesh. And they have to have the heart of the Father. They have to love people. So there's a lot of times that people are going to try to get into churches, position themselves into leadership positions, and those are the most likely candidates to have a stronger Jezebel spirit because they are good at acting. All right, let me go on. They're dominant. People that have Jezebel, they have little to no empathy for their victims. They don't really have love in their hearts for people. They'll intimidate you. They'll threaten you. They'll be rebellious, they'll be suspicious of your intentions, paranoid, critical, judgmental. They show contempt and disrespect. They'll speak ambiguously so that they can deny what they said later, and never take responsibility for it. They can even cuss privately at their victims so that they can act good, act godly in front of the public. They'll take offense at the drop of the hat easily. They're hypersensitive, but they'll offend people often too. They'll overtalk you so that you can't talk. They could go on for hours and hours to wear you down, to look at their way. They'll argue about stupid things, petty things. They'll rarely ever admit that they're wrong or apologize. Oftentimes say, well, I hear from God. I hear from God. You don't hear from God. You're obviously not hearing from God. They're oftentimes very religious, which is the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes. So they're very much about the law. And if you mess up one time, oh my gosh, then I'm going to let you have it. So they don't really have love in their hearts. It's kind of hard to fake not having the love thing in their hearts. It's also kind of hard to fake having humility. They'll have false humility, but there's always a pride. You know, they can overreact. Oftentimes spiritually, they'll overreact. They'll go on and on and on, act like they're under the... Did you guys hear that? Did you see that? I didn't even see it. What was that? Was that an alligator behind me? Is that Leviathan rising its head? I've had that happen once before. I was at a lake and I started making declarations exposing the Leviathan spirit. And all of a sudden these waves start coming in out of nowhere. There was no boat in the water. And all of a sudden these waves start lapping in. And I'm like, what? I had that happen once when I was in St. Augustine, Florida, the oldest city in America. Made declarations and all these waves started happening. So, isn't that cool? I love to see things that are supernatural when the Lord does it. So anyways, people that struggle with the Jezebel spirit are going to have a lot of pride. They're not going to be humble. They're going to overreact oftentimes supernaturally. Religiously. They'll act like they're under the presence of the Lord. And they'll just make all these things. And oftentimes that's the Kundalini spirit. But they will definitely be great actors and actresses and act like they're so anointed. You know, they might shake their necks. If somebody starts doing this thing, they got the Kundalini spirit. 9 times out of 10, that's what that is. It could be a little bit of Leviathan and Jezebel as well. But anytime somebody's neck starts doing that weird thing and they start shaking their head and stuff, sometimes people will say, well, that's the Holy Spirit. No, it's not. Never saw Jesus doing that. Never heard of the disciples doing that. That is demonic. It needs to be delivered. So I did a teaching on that. It's been watched more than most all of my teachings here in the last 6 months. It's called Kundalini, the dangers of Kundalini spirit. So anyway, talking about Jezebel, Leviathan, Ahab today. Jezebel will take an offense easy. They'll overtalk you, argue about petty things, rarely ever admit they're wrong. They'll target leaders of ministries or churches to try to discredit and lie about them, to hurt their ministries, to cause people to not listen to them or follow them and get delivered especially. They're great at acting like they're the victim. Oh, poor, pitiful me. I'm so innocent. And they'll try to get other people to sympathize with them. They oftentimes use social media or private conversations. They're very much about privately gossiping. Gossip. Love to spread rumors against their victims. They'll talk about exaggerated, grandiose future plans. Future talking. Go away. There's some bugs here. Okay, they act sweet and innocent, but it's fake, as they are really mean and they're bullies behind closed doors. That's why we call them Jezebelies, because they love to bully people. They cannot stand to be told no. They feel like they need to be your personal policeman, and they'll report on you if you don't do everything that I want you to do. You know, you think about that. Is God like that? Is God like, you know what? I am gonna hammer you if you do one thing wrong. No. He knows why people do things wrong. Hurting people hurt people. People that aren't healed and delivered are going to mess up. But he loves them. He always has the heart of love. And so when people have Jezebel, they don't have love. They want to get you. They want to control you. They want to manipulate you. They want to promote themselves constantly. They demand that you do whatever they tell you. They love to provoke you to get you angry. And then they'll point the finger and say, look how mean that you are. You're so bad because you lost it on me after I went off on you for 5 hours. And it's like, really? Maybe you need to take some ownership for going off on a person for hours and hours. They cannot stand it if other people love you more than them. They crave attention and adoration. They love to start arguments, as they never want anyone to have peace. They love to debate. They oftentimes want you to spend lots of money on them because they deserve the best, after all. And oftentimes, if you have a relationship with them, you'll be drained of your money. You won't have any money left because the Jezebel spirit will take it all. Those who are in a relationship with them will oftentimes feel sick to their stomach, have to walk on eggshells around them all the time. They enjoy playing mind games, stringing you along, playing on your heartstrings and your mercy heart. Now, once they know that you're starting to get onto them and you start to pull away, you don't want to be controlled by them anymore, what happens? What happens? Well, once they no longer can control you, they'll try normally one last effort to try to control you. And when you say, no, I'm done, then guess what? They will discard you. You know, especially if they're in a relationship where they're your spouse or something, they will move on from you quickly. They're like, oh, I don't need you anymore. And they'll act like you're nothing to them. And people, you'll see this all the time. You know, I saw this in my own marriage. People that are the victims, they have a hard time pulling away. They struggle more with the Ahab spirit, and they have more of a mercy heart. And so they love the person. But then the person, once the victim decides that, okay, I'm not going to take this anymore. I got to pull away, got to separate. When they do that, then the Jezebel really goes off. Oh my gosh, how dare you? Because why? They feel rejected. That's normally where that spirit will come from too, is that they were feeling rejected when they were growing up. So now they'll really let you have it. They'll lie about you. They'll do a smear campaign, lie to anyone that will listen. And then those that listen to them oftentimes have the same demonic spirits, the same Jezebel spirits. Oh, poor, pitiful you. Oh, we love you. Why? Because they have the same Jezebel spirit. Like spirits will draw them to other people that have those spirits. So it's true. They don't want you to communicate with them using three-way text, because then you can call them out. You have proof of what they said. They can't lie about it later. People that have Jezebel will betray you. They're very disloyal. They believe that they're perfect, but their decisions are not good. Again, they want to stop you from ever speaking about the evil that they do, but they'll spread rumors about you all day long. Nothing you can do will please them, and you will never have peace as long as you're in a relationship with them. They'll accuse their victims of what they are. They'll accuse their victims of being a narcissist. I see that all the time. You're a narcissist. You're a narcissist. I'm like, really? Seriously? And they'll do that oftentimes on social media. They don't play fair. They'll have secret conversations with others. So they want you to submit to them instead of God. They tell you, hey, listen, you don't hear from God, but I do. Listen to me. They want you to make them their idol. They'll act like they're anointed of God, but they really have no anointing. They love their titles, pastor, apostle, bishop, which they can oftentimes purchase online. And they oftentimes have people that they idolize who represent ungodly behaviors, sexual movie stars, singers, etc. They love to be the center of attention, and they have a double standard. They oftentimes have a double standard with their own kids. They'll tell you how to treat your own kids, being harsh and controlling of them, while they let their kids do whatever they want, you know? And oftentimes they want to keep their phones very close to them. They want to lock down so you don't see if they're having private conversations with other people that are not appropriate when you're having appropriate conversations. All right, and then there's the Leviathan spirit, which is in Job 41. Causes pride. Think that they're better than others. Oftentimes they have a false humility. It will twist the communication in their mind. So you may say something to them like, hey, honey, I'm going down to the grocery store, so I'll see you in a couple hours. Or they heard you say, honey, I'm going down to the bar. I'm going to get drunk and pick up some women. And you're like, what? I didn't say that. Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did. I heard what you said. And you're like, oh my gosh, you're a little bit crazy today. But they'll convince you oftentimes that, nope, nope, this is what you said. And you're like, no, I don't think I said that. You're like, yes, you did. So they'll twist communication in their minds. The Leviathan spirit will wrap around your spine and your neck, and it will twist, causing you oftentimes to have a lot of headaches, insomnia. You can't sleep well at night, back pain, neck pain. It will cause you to be drowsy when you try to read the Bible or Christian books. You can't stay awake. You're like, after you read one verse, you're like, oh my gosh, you're 5 verses. You can't stay awake, so you can't retain anything. It can cause you to have scoliosis, fibromyalgia, many other sicknesses and diseases. And you can get the Leviathan spirit, and you'll get it if you get hurt by someone when you're growing up. Pride comes in, so you'll protect yourself from getting hurt from anyone else. You don't trust anybody. But you can also get it if you yourself joined organizations, or if you had a father, grandfather, mother, grandmother involved in Freemasons, Scottish Rite, Shriners, Eastern Star, which is for women. Why? Because those organizations, which are built around making money, trying to protect yourself, making money, having your brotherhood protect you, but you have to do these oaths that you say to Satan. You have to serve Satan by the time you get to the 30th degree of being a Freemason. It's true. I've talked to several people that came out of that organization, and they struggled a lot because they went through, was one person became a Shriner, and he started to have to repent for everything that he did. He didn't quite get all the way freed. So he had a lot of physical issues in his body. All right, ahabs. So oftentimes people, that's not so bad. I'm like, well, God did say in the Bible that Ahab did more evil in the sight of the Lord than all the other kings prior to him. Why? Because he tolerated Jezebel. He allowed Jezebel to run the show. He should have said, no, we're not killing the prophets today. Sorry, that's crossing the line. Not going to do that. But he let it go. Why? Because there were benefits that he got that Jezebel would do that he wouldn't. Case in point, he wanted Naboth's vineyard. So he went down to Naboth. Hey, Naboth, can I have your vineyard? Naboth's like, nope, I'm not going to give it to you, especially you. You're a bad man. So I'm going to give him to my kids. And so he went back, and he offered him a fair price for the property. He even offered him to exchange it for a property of like value. But Naboth said no. So he goes back and he pouts about it, doesn't eat. And then Jezebel's like, well, why are you so sad? Well, because I couldn't get Naboth's vineyard. Well, I'll take care of that for you. My gosh, you're the king. Oh, really? Oh, thank you, Jezzy. You're the best. Mwah. So what happens? She ends up coming up with a concoction, a story, lying about him, writes a letter basically to the people in charge, invites him to in charge of where he lives, invites him to a banquet, has 2 scoundrels that lie about him, accusing him, saying that he had blasphemed God and came against the king. So they took him outside and they stoned him and they killed him. And then the vineyard was given to Ahab. So Ahab got what he wanted, but he couldn't get it himself because he wouldn't lower himself to doing the dirty work. Whereas people that have Jezebel, that they're married to, all they have to do is to say, hey, honey, would you mind doing this dirty work for me? Oh, yes, I will do that. And so that might involve them, I don't know, being on the phone with somebody for hours to wear them down to give them what they want. And the person finally says, okay, here, you can have $5,000 off of this car. Whereas the Ahab wouldn't dare waste time. He just couldn't do it, or she couldn't do it. So there's benefits that Ahab has being in marriage with a Jezebel. But it's not fun, because there's always going to be a lot of control and manipulation. So Ahabs oftentimes have a position of influence, and they could have money. Now, they could be presidents of companies. They could be pastors, senior pastors. They don't like confrontation, though. So oftentimes, those that have the biggest, squeakiest wheel, they'll give into. And the Jezebels know that. So Ahabs will allow and tolerate ungodly behavior and decisions to be made. They have a strong desire to make everybody happy. They have a hard time being a strong spiritual leader. They're afraid of being rejected and alone. They do not like taking responsibility for things that could be bad, but they'll do it. Whereas Jezebel won't. They'll just ignore it, or they'll say that they never, ever did that. So people that have Ahab oftentimes feel more secure being married to someone who will run the show, like a Jezebel. They will compromise on their sexual purity in relationships. Oftentimes Jezebel could seduce. They expect bad things to take place. They avoid telling people what they need to be told. They're passive. They put up and tolerate bad behavior. They believe it's their duty to make everybody happy and comfortable. They have a challenge making decisions because they want people to like them. And if a person says, you know what, I don't like what you did, then they feel bad. They're like, oh my gosh, how can I change it? How can I make it better so that you'll like me? Their happiness and peace is based on current circumstances and how they're loved, affirmed, and accepted is how they feel. They oftentimes give power away in order for other people to validate their identity. They fear abandonment. They can become clingy, needy, and helpless. They'll do anything to gain your acceptance. So that is what we're dealing with. That's the overriding problems with the world, is that we have people that have been hurt when they're growing up by their fathers, their mothers, sexual violations have been done to them, and they end up oftentimes with the spirit of Jezebel. And then those people come into contact with those who have the spirit of Ahab, and they get married. And then the enemy wants them to go into the churches, wants them to start taking over. So they're not pure, they're not spotless, they're not godly, they're tainted. And when people get delivered from this stuff, then they can actually hear God and do what God tells them to do, instead of hearing the enemy and compromising. And at that point, they can be bold, confident, and do the things the Lord wants them to do. And then they can help get others set free. And then we can have a pure and spotless bride. Go away, bugs. Okay, well, I guess that's it. Again, how you get delivered from this is you need to forgive people. Truly forgive people that have hurt you and give them to the Lord. And then command the demons to go that attach to you. So forgive everybody. And if you have a problem doing that, ask the Lord to come, to give you a vision or give you his words about why these people hurt you, so you can truly forgive from your hearts. When you can forgive someone from your heart, you take away legal rights from the demons to torment you. You can then command the demons to go. And then instead of getting 12,000 to 60,000 negative thoughts a day, you get a lot of thoughts from the Lord. And you can actually have fruit that's from the Spirit of the Lord. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control. Instead of Galatians 5:16 through 26, which is, well, actually it's like verse 16 through 22, I think, or maybe 21, that has the fruit of the flesh, where it's jealousy and envy and dissension and striving and arguing and wrath and anger and sexual stuff that's not healthy. That is where a lot of the people are at that attend church. It's because they're not healed and delivered yet of the demons that are tormenting them. So yes, Christians have demons that talk to them and they hear them. It's rare to find Christians that don't. So that's the reason why. The church is a mess. All right, well, I will let you go. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you. Can you deliver yourself? Yes, you can. In fact, it's really the best way. Why? Is because, I could command every demon to be gone, but if you still have unforgiveness for people that hurt you, then all the demons are going to do is remind you in your thoughts, you know what? Your dad was horrible to you. You're right. Yes, he was. So as soon as you start getting back into bitterness and anger again, the demons have legal rights to come back. So really, I tell people I can't deliver anyone. It's you guys that deliver yourselves. But it's through forgiveness, and it's through repentance for pride. So that's how we do it. Do we bring the altars up? Yes. That's the fun part. I enjoy doing that. So altars are alternate personalities. Most people have alternate personalities. You have a mean side of you that gets triggered because you have some unhealed wounds in the past. So if someone doesn't do what you want, you trigger. You get mad, you get angry, go off on them for hours and hours. That's an alternate personality. So you can, and that's how I do, I interrogate demonic spirits, or I can interrogate the alternate personality. Call them to come up, and then the person oftentimes will speak in that voice. Like if they're a little girl, they'll say that their name is such and such. And I can say, okay, I can interrogate and say, what gave you legal right? When did you start coming into the picture in that person's life? Well, when they were 5, they were hurt. I'm like, oh, really? What happened to them? Well, their daddy touched them, or their cousin or their neighbor. So you can get the truth to come out of these demonic spirits, these alter personalities. And it's really, really, really amazing, because then you can understand all of this. Can you do it yourselves? It's more challenging to try and do that yourself. It's better if you have a person that's trained, that knows this, that's gone through it. You know, I do it I don't do it with everybody every day, but those that have been significantly hurt, at the end of a session, you know, we take them through soul wound healing first, where they can go back to the wounds, the bad things that happened to them. Now, sometimes the person blanks it out. Like, I don't remember what happened at the age 4 to 7, or I don't remember much of my childhood. Well, if they're being sexually molested, that's the reason why. They black it out. It's a protective mechanism. They disassociate. They don't want to remember that stuff. So the Lord allows them to still live in life without being freaked out by the traumas that are going on. But once they get to their 30s, 40s, and 50s, at that point, you can take them back to when they were little kids. And then you can command that spirit to come up, or the alternate personality. Then you can interrogate it and say, okay, what are the legal rights? Well, they still have anger and unforgiveness for their dad. Well, then what you have to do is say, okay, let's have Jesus come and give you a word about your dad. Okay, Jesus, why? Why did the dad do this? Why did the cousin do this to the little boy, little girl? Well, it's because they were hurt when they were growing up. Oh, well, that explains it. So the demons in my mom or my dad were hurting me. Yes, that's right. It was causing them to do what they did to you. Okay, well, then I forgive them. Yeah, Lord, I give them to you. Okay, now we can take away legal rights of the demons. We can then command the demons to go. When the demons have no more legal rights to go, when the wounds are healed, then you command the demons to go, like Jesus did. I command you to go to the pit, be gone. And the demons won't like that. You know, I had that happen yesterday. This one person, you know. Well, and oftentimes people, they don't have any manifestations other than they hear the voices in their head. And they're like, oh my gosh, I could really hear. I'm like, yeah. I go, we have authority over them, but they do have legal rights to stay if we give them that through unforgiveness, through bitterness, through wanting to listen to a bunch of junk music, or getting drunk, or getting high. All these things give legal rights to the demons to torment. So if the church would only do their job and speak about this, they don't want to talk about it. We could have a whole bunch of Christians, quote unquote, delivered and truly having the fruit of a Christian then. So there's a lot of people in the church that don't have the fruit. They're selfish, they're mean, they lie, they're sexually impure. And you get delivered from all this stuff. You feel light, you'll feel healthy. Yes, nature sounds, that's why I come out here. I love peace. So I come out to lakes and rivers and so forth. Do you deliver children? Yes, I do. In fact, I'll say this about children. So I do. Oftentimes I can just take authority. So I command every demonic spirit to be gone from the child in Jesus' name. Did that with my own son. And he was 18 at the time. But understand this, if the child is getting hurt and abused by a parent, father or mother, that has access to them, and then the demons will eventually come back. Unless you explain to the kids, you got to forgive. And like, well, I can't stand it. My dad, you know, if you're 5, 6, 7 years old, it's really hard. If your dad or your mom is saying horrible things to you, or if you're getting sexually molested, then those demons are gonna have legal rights. You know, you got to protect the children, and that's the hard thing. It's really hard, especially when the court says, okay, you got to have visitation rights. We can't take those away from the parent, and then the parent abuses them. I know of several cases where they're like that. This one little girl I met, it was out in, where is it out? In Minnesota. And she was being abused by her father sexually. And he was trying to gain access to the girl so he could keep on doing it. And I'm like, this is so wrong. It's so hard to prove some of this stuff too. But it explains a lot. So anyway, yes, children, and I have a children's video too on YouTube. So you can go out there to videos to get delivered, my playlist, and you can see the children's deliverance video. I've actually have 2 of them. One deals with Jezebel, Leviathan, Ahab. The other one deals with just all kinds of stuff, the latest one that I did. And kids can watch it. They can understand it. You know, they can get delivered. But again, if the child is going to keep getting molested or emotionally hurt by a parent, then they can get reinfected. That's how the demons do it. You have a parent that says negative things to the child over and over again, it's going to affect them. They're going to hear those voices in their head, reminding them, oh my goodness, what are all these bugs? Go away. It's funny because I remember coming to the lake when I first did a YouTube live and all these bugs were there. So anyways, all right. Well, I'm going to let you guys go and have a great rest of your weekend. See ya. Love ya. Bye.